Uh, Thank you, Randala, for that inspiring message. And moving on to our next speaker. Our next speaker is someone who has spent years challenging the status quo. He is a true visionary, he's a tech leader, a storyteller, and a force for change in Sri Lanka's innovation landscape. Everyone, put your hands together for Peter Diaumeda.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. But I want to start off by saying, while we are in this nice place here, what's the context? Very important, we always learn what context. So the context is this, two important aspects. One is we are a bankrupt country. No, we have not started paying our debts yet. Our foreign debt, we have not started paying. Maybe there are plans, but the fact is today, in technical terms, in a sense, we are still bankrupt. What does that mean? The best of our people leave the country. So who is going to bring up the next generation, mentor people? Sandima. And doctors have left. 1,800 doctors, 400 specialists. So healthcare, education, that's the point. And thirdly, when you're bankrupt, means you can't run your day-to-day. You don't have money to really invest in your day-to-day affair. But you certainly don't have money to invest in the future. Even now, the budget, I think 12%, 12 billion, not 12%, 12 billion for R&D. So let's not forget that. So the hard times are still ahead of us. Point number two, we are seeing a massive growth in AI. And the thing is, people think AI is another tool. This is another tool. No. For the first time since life appeared, microorganism appeared on the planet, billions of years ago, we are seeing the beginning of a new species. And that's going to disrupt all of you in tracing. Every software company will get disrupted. So don't come and sit here and think you continue to do what you're doing every day. You're going to cut it. You won't. Because now I know, now what is, in a minute, I'll try to explain. This is not about, technology, all that is there. But what will really happen is every one of you will have a personal assistant whom you talk to. And the personal assistant talks to you. So I will say, my personal assistant, say, hey, Peter, something's going wrong with you today, right? I've been seeing your messages. You're not feeling good. What's going on? Say, yeah, I think there's something not quite right. Is it something to do with your partner, Kanchana? I said, maybe. I see that your conversations have not been going too well. Then the AI agent will say, shall I talk to her agent? Not to her. So the bloody agents are talking to each other. God knows what they'll conspire. That's the world. It's happening now. And yet we continue in our merry ways. Now that's what brings me to Sri Lanka. We are backward, except for exceptions. I'm talking general. Don't get me wrong. There are great companies and all that. But it's culture. We are backward. We celebrate mediocrity. And with all due respect, thank you, Heminder, call me visionary. I am not a visionary. We use these words very loosely. Visionary. Who is a visionary? Not me. Visionaries are people who see into the future. They imagine a different world. We may have done a little bits of it, but doesn't qualify to be called a visionary. And then they will work long term. They're resilient. They'll give their life to it. And they want to make a big change. For me, real visionaries are the types like Mandela. 25 years in solitary confinement, never gives up on his dream. And unlike our businesses, no bloody plan B for visionaries. We have plan B. Very easy. Make a plan B, plan. No plan B. There's only one plan. And we make it work. And not risk averse, risk mitigation. And you go for it. So we use words like visionary, innovation, creativity very loosely. And that's why we stay far behind. Now, the bank is sponsoring no reflection on HNB. But if you take banking, it's the most backward industry in the country. Zero innovation. Zero. But you make billions of rupees in profit. How come? These payments and all that, that's nothing. The only real innovation was the ATM machine. Since then, there has been nothing. No fault of yours. Because you're already enjoying a substantial spread in interest rates. We have no compulsion to innovate. Innovation, our classic example of necessity being the mother of invention is deep seek. These bloody Americans went and put all sorts of embargo. NVIDIA chips will only give you the bloody N800, not the N100, all sorts of nonsense. Sam Altman boosting this bloody thing and saying you need to invest billions to make this work. In 6 months, they came out with R1. I carry it in my pocket today. So that's disruption. $6 million versus 20 billion or whatever. But we have no reason in our industries to innovate because we make profits, because the system allows you. So that's the point. Are we really, and it's a mindset. So with the big and this idea that private sector will be the engine of growth, forget it. Definitely not. They're only interested in narrow profits. So we are not a culture in government, in private sector, in the banks, where there is money to be spent, there is no culture, there's no innovative mindset to challenge the status quo and to do something different. See, that context that we now come to creativity. Great point you made, Ramdula. Everybody's creative, then, as you know, you are in education. They send them to school. That's what happens to, at 5, what happens? They go to school. But creativity, also people think of it very in a complex way. But I want to share some interesting thoughts on creativity from a musician called Charles Mingus. Very interesting. He says, creativity is more than just being different. And I'd like you to think about this. Anyone can be plain weird. That's easy. What's hard is to be as simple as Bach. Making the simple awesomely simple. That's creativity. So it's not, creativity is not about doing something fancy, great. Can you take something and make it absolutely simple? Take coding, for example. Like Bill Gates said, if you measure the progress of code of a program by the lines of code you have written, that's like measuring the progress of an aircraft by the weightage that you have added, right? How many of us are trained to do clean and readable code? Do we follow that practice? Make it elegant, make it look good, make it simple, make it readable. So I think we are missing the point. We are mixing up all these things, and if you can just stick to simple ideas on creativity, for example. And he said, there's another guy, Ray Bradbury, American author and screenwriter. He says something very radical. He says, don't think. He says, don't think. Thinking is the enemy of creativity. Because he says thinking is self-conscious. Anything self-conscious hinders creativity. So I invite you to look at these things differently. You see, visionary innovation is not confined to the business world. We always think of these words for greater profits, increased market share. No, but there is, now we come back to the context. We are a broken country. Now is the opportunity for us to innovate and to create something different. Now take that, for me, one of the greatest innovations is not Sundar Pichai, who lived not too far from Arunachalam Muruganathan, Coimbatore, correct? Sundar Pichai went on to become Google, and Google is dominating the world. That's a different matter, and they don't pay their fair share of taxes. But Murugaya Arunachalam, you all know him, Muruganathan Arunachalam. Who knows Muruganathan Arunachalam? Who knows Sundar Pichai? Muruganathan Arunachalam, same bloody Coimbatore man, Tamil fellow. That's Batman. Who knows Batman? Thank God, no, Batman. Now, what did he do? He didn't go to IIT or all these schools, fancy business schools. He found that his wife was using dirty cloth when she was having menstruation. He said, my God, I could not feed my motorcycle scooter with this filthy rag. Then he found that damn thing cost 8 rupees, 4 rupees, the material. It sold for 400. And he decided, I'm going to do something about it. He was obsessed by it. He used to give badge to girls in boarding schools and say, come back and give it to me. I want to see what happens. They thought he was mad. Then he wore bladder, a football bladder those days, with the goat blood and testing this. Obsessed. His wife left him. He said, you are mad, packed up her bags and left. But he says later, when I became popular, she came back. When he became Time Man of the Year, she came back. So, so this fellow, what did he do? Long story short, he became won the Innovation Award, President's Award. But what did he do? He made it so cheap that millions of women in India could afford a pad. That's my timer, 10 minutes up. Could afford a pad. What did he solve? One, he solved the problem of women's hygiene. That's one. Second, employment and income. Because he started taking these in small machines all over India, and now they're taking to other countries. Am I correct, Arvind? Taking to other countries as well. So they got a source of income. Several companies want to commercialize. He said nothing doing. But most importantly, he gave those millions of Indian young women and others a sense of dignity. Because when you had your periods, you don't go to school, you stay at home. Sorry, education and dignity. So then they could, feel they could get about. So you see, innovation is not necessarily about corporates. And I think in Sri Lanka now, we have a chance because we are struggling. And if this is not the time to innovate, then when is? But don't flatter yourselves. Certainly don't call yourself a visionary. Be very careful when you call other people visionaries also. Heminder, but I invite and innovation. Don't quickly put labels. All companies and even you guys think, am I trying to do something that has not been done before? And can I keep the simple absolutely simple? Thank you very much.